Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the session today. I think we seem to have probably picked the buzzword of the show, the Metaverse. So hopefully this will be a really insightful and deep-reaching session for you to enjoy today. I'm Richard Cockle. I'm the head of IoT, Big Data, and Identity at the GSMA, and it's been my role to try and start thinking about how do we, at the GSMA, start to move forward with the Metaverse. Hopefully today we've put together a world-class group of panelists who will be able to give us the full range of knowledge around what the Metaverse is, what could the business model look like, what will the technology need to do, and how real is it today? And of course, what does the future look like? So we'll start off today with a fantastic presentation with Luis Ramirez from Mawari, who's going to give us some insight into the XR technology which they've developed and the compression software which they're using to make this metaverse a reality. And not a reality in the future, a reality today. And then we'll have Accenture come and tell us about how they've taken up the vision of Metaverse and started to implement it within their business. And they're actually they're using it as an enterprise piece of software to help to engage with their employees. So with that, in that session, we'll have a number of speakers. We'll be playing a video with a number of the leaders from Accenture who will give us their view. And then we'll have a fantastic panel where we'll go through the range of topics and hopefully ask all the questions which we want to get an answer to. So within the GSMA, we saw this was a coming trend, so we'll be launching our FinTech forum at the end of this month. And as you'll see, there's a whole range of topics there, but we view that Metaverse should sit within that. It will be very much where we start to think about how do we use our identities in the Metaverse? How do we make payments? How do we make it safe? How do we make sure that there's a vibrant community in the Metaverse? But before we go into any other detail, I'd like to just ask Luis to come up and give us some insight into what the future looks like, but what the reality of today.
This one should work. OK. Hello, everyone. I'm Luis Ramirez, founder and CEO of Mawari. We are a Tokyo and US-based company. We provide what we call it a experience delivery network. Let's just think about Web 2.0. We call content, so a content delivery network. But this content is somewhat static, and you just download it. But when it comes to the Web 3.0 and we talk about XR, this content is real-time and interactive. So that's why we call it an experience delivery network. So just to get it started, the internet today, as we see it, we transfer more than 3 trillion gigabytes of content per year. And this is in the shape of pictures, videos, text, and social media. And moreover, users today, when you click on Netflix, content is immediately available. So users do not have patience anymore to wait for downloads and so on. So when we talk about the Metaverse, maybe in 2030 or whenever this is going to happen, we think of this as a technology that is part of our daily lives. But what very few people realize is that actually to make that happen, the amount of data that we need to transfer over the internet is exponential to what we do today. And moreover, that there are a lot of technical roadblocks and bottlenecks that we need to tackle before getting there. So as Mawari, in our vision, and specifically to the XR content, we see two main problems, or I like to call it the elephant in the room, because everybody talks nice and pretty things about the Metaverse, but nobody really talks about how to power the infrastructure. So first of all, 3D content is heavy by nature. So now we're talking about gigabytes or even terabytes of content. So users really don't have the patience to wait to download this, even if we do it with 5G. Secondly, we have had 3D content in the shape of games, movies, and so on. But the way this content is rendered is usually just on the device here. So when we talk about delivering the same experience to millions of users and this scale, the current rendering pipeline is not really compatible. And on the other hand, for this metaverse to become part of everybody's life and with XR, the devices need to be almost invisible. Think about like Minority Report with the contact lenses or just really light smart glasses. So this brings another challenge, which is the processing power. On the glasses, as you start adding 3D graphics processing, like the environment recognition processing, the devices really get super, super hot, and then the battery drains out really quickly. Then, on top of that, you add 5G, and it's a killer combination for a less than 1 minute experience. So the way to mitigate these bottlenecks today, what we're doing is we're building a content delivery network with our own compression framework that renders the 3D content in the cloud and then stream it, enabling immediate access to XR devices. So at a very high level, we have on the left side the XR content. We pass through our experience delivery network, and it gets delivered to the XR devices in real time. So about our codec, what's good about it? We reduce the consumption power up to 60 times. This is, just imagine you have a smartphone, but you are powering it with a very high-grade GPU. And on the other hand, today we've seen formats like volumetric video, which uncompressed use about 4 gigabits per second. So we have managed to get a consistent bandwidth from 10 to 40 megabits per second without really offering much quality degradation. And why Mawari? Well, as you may know, Newzoo has launched the Metaverse infographic, and we've been identified as one of the players or early architects in the cloud and infrastructure. This is very important because as much as there are many good use cases, if there's no infrastructure to power these use cases, we'll never get there. Also, we've been labeled like the Akamai of the metaverse or the MP3 of AR. There are good analogies to what we do. And obviously also this one by Forbes, the $20 billion codec. I really hope it becomes that way. We'll see. And here's an example of what we do. So this is the MetaHumans by Epic Games are delivered in real time, and you can have an intelligent conversations. These MetaHumans are plugged into AI backend, so it's real-time speech, like real-time text-to-speech and real-time speech-to-text. We have deployed these MetaHumans across Tokyo, Germany, and the US. And as you can see here, this car is being streamed in real time. It has more than 400 million polygons, real-time reflections. It's something that a smartphone can handle, and we can control it like if you were just doing AR gaming from your smartphone. In this example, also this is a digital human that helps you find your way through the streets in Tokyo. And also once you are inside the store, it helps you with shopping. This is an art installation that we collaborated with Kohei Nawa. This is in a shopping mall in Ginza. I will explain a little bit more about this. This is an experience for smart glasses in which we use split rendering. So the floor is rendered locally in the device, and then the robot, as you're interacting with this robot, is rendered from the cloud. Okay, so let's go into the case studies. The first one is, as I mentioned, in the streets of Tokyo. We did this collaboration with KDDI and Amazon Web Services. We deployed this service in the low latency wavelength zone. And here, the main point is that we combine together all the technology stack, which is outdoor mapping, indoor mapping, cloud streaming, And on top of that, we deployed with low latency, with persistent experiences for many users. So let's look at the video. You will learn more about the use case now. So her name is Aiko, and she will present about this use case.
Hello, I am Aiko. Please let me introduce you the latest collaboration between KDDI and Mavari, powered by AWS, Starfy Outdoor Visual Positioning System and Immersal Indoor Visual Positioning System. These technologies are integrated into one application delivered by the powerful and ultra-low latency AWS wavelength service. Hello, my name is Aiko. We are in Ginza, which is located in the center of Tokyo. This application leverages the robust and superior performance of the AU 5G network. This service allows me to provide you with visual and seamless guidance both outdoors and indoors. Welcome to Ginza Yangoroku, created by KDDI. Go straight till the end of the hallway and you will find the stairs. This is the end of the navigation service. Here are the
Okay, so it's just worth mentioning that this is not CG. It's actually just recorded from the screen as the application runs in real time. Because usually most of the Metaverse videos are just CG and all that. So just want to clarify that. Second, this service actually, we have a demo in the AWS Marketplace. So if you want to launch it in your own virtual machine or your virtual instance, feel free to look for Mavari in the Amazon Marketplace, and you can give it a try. We will be happy to assist you. And right now, we're deploying this with a couple operators in their MEX instances, so we can also help you with that. The second one is a similar use case, but here the point was that, also again, regarding infrastructure, very few people know that, okay, so the operators really play now an essential role. It's not like today the internet that you can access a website from anywhere in the world. Here, the servers, the processing servers are in the infrastructure close to the user. So if you want to access, for example, this digital human application from Spain and the server is located in Tokyo, you will get the latency, the 600 milliseconds latency. So we need to cooperate with Telefonica or with, for example, this one is a cooperation between KDDI and Deutsche Telekom to deploy the same application across geographies. So let's take a look.
駅は1日に330万人が利用していて、駅利用者数で世界ナンバー2です。カルチャー、ファッション、繁華街の中心地として日本屈指の
Der Veranstaltungsraum mit einer Kapazität von 1500 Besuchern wird gerne für öffentliche Veranstaltungen wie Konzerte verwendet. Mit ungefähr 5000 Mitarbeitern arbeiten wir hier an den Telekommunikationsinnovationen von morgen.
This trial tested the ability to run advanced edge-enabled services across different geographies and operator networks. Using the MobileEdge X-Edge cloud platform to provide unified access to KDDI's and Deutsche Telekom's 5G Edge MEC resources, Starfy and Mawari were able to easily deploy their services and run them with optimal latency and bandwidth to create an outstanding user experience. Leveraging Mawari's XR streaming solution, we were able to deliver a multiplayer real-time experience featuring hyper-realistic personalized digital assistants and sci-fi billboard advertisements perfectly placed into the real world outside in the streets thanks to Starfy's visual positioning system. All working in perfect synchrony and speed thanks to MEC and 5G. Let's dive into the advantages of edge computing with an A/B comparison. The digital human on the left is rendered by a smartphone and the one on the right is rendered by a MEC server. The difference in quality is evident. The MEC server digital human comprises hyper-detailed face animations, high-quality textures and high polygon count, ultra-realistic hair and clothing simulations, complicated lighting scenarios with dynamic materials and reflections. This can't be accomplished with a smartphone GPU today. In addition, to render the digital human on the left, more than 1 GB of data needs to be downloaded, forcing users to wait and providing a bad user experience. In contrast, the one on the right can be streamed instantaneously. We will continue to work with interested operators and developers to build a global platform to make access to MEC infrastructure as easy as possible.
As you see, hello. So as you see, she does a lot of the job for me actually in speaking, explain about technology. She can speak in English, Japanese, German, because it's all programmatic. The next example, because I'm running out of time, is this is a deployment for smart glasses. This is a guide inside a virtual gallery. So here, there's no sound. She welcomes you in the Japanese way. And then she leads you to the painting. So she's telling you, okay, please go to this painting. So the application already knows your position. So as soon as you are at a good distance from the painting, it recognizes, and then she appears again, and she starts telling you in context, in the language you speak, about this art. Then guides you to the next one. And then this, for example, this is also a very unique experience because this is a base by Émile Gallet that obviously nobody can see through the glass. So we allowed it to, we did photogrammetry. It's just a 16K textures, and you can go inside, and it's an experience that otherwise wouldn't be enabled. This exhibition was open to the public for about 8 months. It closed now due to Omicron, unfortunately. But yeah, it is a commercial deployment, which is what Richard was saying, is these things are being done today and are open to the public. And the last one I want to show, this is also a really cool use case, is about Kohei Nawa. Here the highlight is that we collaborated with a really renowned artist that he doesn't settle for less than what he thinks is quality. So he delivered to us a 40 gigabyte, 3-minute point cloud performance. And we compressed it to 400 megabytes, and we were able to stream it. So this is also using indoor mapping technology to position the point cloud precisely in the shopping mall, so you can watch this experience through any point of the shopping mall. And hopefully, if you have chance to go to Tokyo before October, this is still running. So basically, you can just grab your iPhone, scan the deer. Then the application will recognize your spot on the shopping mall. And here we see the art. So it's worth mentioning, it's more than 250,000 points that were edited frame by frame. And actually, these little points have real-time reflections, and it's being rendered at 30 frames per second. This is what our streaming technology can power today. Okay, sorry, I'm out of time, sorry, so I don't want to steal the stage. So thank you very much. I'm Luis Ramirez. Here's my contact. Happy to talk and discuss more about the Metaverse.
Thanks, Louise. How cool was that? So we've just realized Metaverse is actually probably almost already here. We've just taken a look at a couple of B2C examples. So now I want to take a look at what could it look like in the enterprise. So I'd like to invite Brian Smith from Accenture to come up, and so he can show you how they're using it in the enterprise within their own organization. Brian, the floor is yours.
Great, thank you very much. It's great to be with you all here today. As Rich said, my name is Brian Smith. I lead innovation for our comms and media industry in Accenture, and our booth is just over there if you'd like to visit. And what I would like to talk about here, as Rich said, is Metaverse in the enterprise. And what we've decided to do over the last number of months in Accenture was really eat our own dog food here. And we bought 60,000 VR headsets for our employees. So it's one of the largest enterprise rollouts of VR globally. And we've used this technology for our teams to collaborate and work in new ways together. What I'd like to do is have two of my colleagues who will explain this in more detail and really bring it to life with some use cases and examples of how we're using this technology across our own business and across our own workforce to collaborate in new ways together, but also how we're using it to help our clients with use cases like immersive learning in the enterprise, field worker, health and safety training, and so on. We do have a Metaverse experience in our booth, so hopefully some of you will have experienced that already. And I'm looking forward to the panel discussion with Luis and Microsoft, where we go into this in a little bit more detail. Microsoft were a key partner here for us. So the platform that you will see is built on AltSpace VR. But for now, I'll hand it over to my colleagues to bring to life how we're rolling this out inside of Accenture.
I'm Jason Warnke. I lead digital experience for Accenture, and we're here today to talk about the metaverse in the enterprise. I couldn't be more delighted to have with me Melanie Cutlin, Managing Director of Technology and Innovation, to talk to us what's happening in this very exciting space. So I'm going to kick it right over to you, Melanie, to tell us what's happening in Metaverse for the enterprise.
Thanks, Jason. Metaverse for the enterprise is buzzing everywhere, and people are trying to understand what is happening, where it is going, and how can they apply it. There is so much to be considered about how the technology has evolved to allow us to have a sense of place, a sense of presence, and a sense of collaboration together that is incredible on how we've been hoping for that over the last few years, as many of us are joining into sessions remotely like this. And so we're seeing is the transformation of the enterprise with that concept in mind. What does it mean for the worker and the employee? How can you do meetings together? How can you use spatial audio to have a big session, but also to have a sidebar conversation as we used to, or the hallway conversation where, let's be honest, business really got done in between meetings, right? So how do you really think about how we meet together, but also how do we learn in these collaborative spaces? The idea of learning centers has been around for so long. How have we, use this technology in the metaverse to learn and experience things in new ways, and also to use the metaverse to manage, to have leadership meetings together, to visit spaces together that we would have done historically in person, and we have been doing over the last few years in these virtual spaces. And so the technology is moving along. It's a convergence of capability, of bandwidth, of new simplicity of that. And so, Jason, you're really leading the way here. Do you want to talk about how you started this journey?
Sure, I'd love to. And this is a space that we, inside of Accenture, for our global population, we've been experimenting and piloting some of these technologies for years. I'm not sure we ever called them metaverse technologies. I think we probably just said, I wonder where mixed reality fits in a workforce like Accenture's workforce. And so we've been experimenting, prototyping, and piloting things. But it wasn't until over the last few years where we sort of shifted the dialogue from, I wonder if this will ever happen, to it is definitely happening. And here are specific things that we need to solve in terms of a business where this technology actually fulfills some of that need. And the best example that I can think of is the reinvention of Accenture's onboarding program. The way that we bring people into Accenture, oftentimes 125,000 people, I think last year was the number that we brought into Accenture. We used to be able to, in start groups, bring people to physical locations, hotels or campuses, et cetera, and we would get to know each other, get to know Accenture, and get to know the culture, learn about how to perform your role inside of Accenture with a team. We can't do that anymore, nor do we think that's the right thing for us to do at scale over time. And so we said, what a great opportunity for us to bring people into a virtual world, no matter where they are coming from across the planet, can go into a virtual world that we call One Accenture Park. It's actually, based on Microsoft AltSpace and Mesh. They go with a headset, or they can go via their PC to join that group, go through this magical virtual world we created to learn about the various aspects of Accenture. They go on a tour of these different lands where they learn about different Accenture services, and they have a client that they're solving a problem for. In this case, I think it's called Global Coffee. And they've got to go solve some of these challenges by understanding what Accenture's all about. They're doing it in a virtual world. They're doing it no matter where they are on the planet, with a headset, without a headset. We actually went ahead. This was such a compelling use case. We went and bought 60,000 VR headsets to enable the experience. If you can't use a headset or don't want to use a headset, you can do so via your PC. That was a really important component and consideration for us to think about was, that the headset certainly adds something. You mentioned spatial audio, how amazing it is to go through a virtual location with other people and you're hearing people talk around you in addition to sort of that immersive feel you get just from the visual aspects of it. But not everyone can use a headset, and so, or wants to use a headset. So enabling that experience, with a PC is a great example of being as inclusive as we possibly could. That was just the first use case. It spawned all other kinds of really neat ones around the design of physical spaces or digital twins of our offices, immersive learning for other use cases, not just the onboard, the folks that we onboard every year, but those for continuing education. We're doing more there because the retention of that sort of learning is, found to be much higher because you're having that shared experience and you're actually getting multi-sensory reaction to what you've learned. So just amazing sets of things that we're already seeing. It's still pretty early, so there are some rough spots that, in terms of supporting this from IT, that still needs to, be smoothed out over time. The sign-on process, getting into an environment very quickly and easily and safely is something that I think we'll see some great advancements in. So I've just talked about a few really, I think, compelling examples of how an enterprise is today leveraging this technologies. But you're doing this with our clients day in and day out. What other sorts of things are you seeing happen with other enterprise customers these days?
As you've talked more and more in the public about what we're doing together with Microsoft and upcoming with Mesh and such, that we've created a lot of conversations with clients who want to understand how to learn in this space as well, how to recreate that onboarding experience. And also, if you think of remote workers, the learning is so different in an immersive environment. So you've got people out working on a telephone pole or an electrical line, or we're out in the field. We have incredible capabilities now to create an immersive experience where you can teach people things that help them learn and retain that information so differently. And so it's very exciting to see where clients are doing the events together, right? So recreating, how do you do events? How are you getting that workforce both in the office like us and out in the field with the others that continue to expand on that capability of the enterprise, as well as seeing people who want to hold their leadership meetings and such in a new collaborative space that can create a presence together that we've all been lacking over the last few years.
That's right. Another area that we didn't even imagine would be as beneficial to us as it has turned out to be is actually in the design of our physical locations. Well, you see, that might sound a little strange. Like, how would VR help us design the physical spaces that Accenture does still create, new offices and new locations? And what we found is, as early as we possibly can take in the CAD designs of a physical location. The designers, the architects are working on. We grab that into the technologies of the metaverse. In many cases, the gaming engines that power the games we play, Unity, Unreal, etc. We brought those into the VR environment. We created this place where our stakeholders building these locations could interact and iterate through a design of a space before the first hammer is actually picked up by a worker in one of those locations. It's amazing the kinds of decisions you can make when you're talking about virtual space before you start to expend, valuable capital building a location out. And it really helps you understand just the different vantage points that you might have in a space that you can't really understand until you see it first visually and spatially. It's been extraordinary, and now it's a part of our process as we're designing space right now. We're doing so iterating with the virtual model of it, the digital twin of the space, which I think is one of those things we didn't anticipate. But as soon as we had the capability and the skills and the tools, we started to see all these other use cases emerge. I'm just curious if there's anything else in the enterprise space that you're seeing early signs of trends that are going to pick up or are picking up with our clients.
Well, there's two parts. As you talk about the digital twin of our offices, some of our offices are used for innovation, right? So how do you innovate together in a virtual space, and how do you create an environment? And it used to be about the showcase tour of capabilities to inspire. But now, instead of showcasing a demonstration of a manufacturing plant that has a supply chain backlog, why not go to a digital twin of that manufacturing space, right? And see that, the boxes are stacking up, or the trucks can't get through, or the port where the containers are all stacked up. And that ability to have presence along with problem solving creates such a unique capability together when you merge those two. So when you bring people together in a collaborative space, the space itself does inspire you. And we used to be, stuck with those four walls, or travel, right, to different locations. So these digital twins of real spaces are important, but also digital twins of fit for purpose spaces that are built to innovate and to inspire and to do some different things.
Well, thank you, Melanie, for just a great, exciting conversation. We both love this topic, which is where we spend a ton of time. I'm dying to know, what things should our listeners or viewers that are watching this keep in mind, or maybe where are the first places that they can start as they take their first steps into the metaverse?
Jason, this is such a fun place to be. And I love everyone I get to talk to about it, because it's just, it's an open-ended world of possibilities. But really you have to start tangible. Do you have a real life problem you're trying to solve? We've talked to clients about, how do I create culture as new joiners join our organization, and how do we create that sense, right? So how do we make sure we engage, learning throughout the process, or as we've talked about, right, how do we use this to actually manage our business? And so find a real life problem you're trying to solve. And then the technology is there. There are plenty of ways to get in. And as Jason said, this is a change management journey of getting people comfortable in the space, and then helping them to understand what they can do with the space. And so really it's about building a roadmap that gets you into the future of how your enterprise of the future will work.
Amazing advice. Thanks so much, Melanie. Take care.
Okay, thanks very much. Well, obviously, we've just seen a number of applications there. We've seen kind of how it works from the perspective of enterprise and B2C. But now, could I just ask my panelists, Brian, Tad, and Louise, to come up, and maybe we can unpack it a little bit further. Thank you very much. So we're going to have...
Is it okay?
No, you have to keep your mask on.
Okay.
You have to keep your mask on. So we're going to obviously do a bit with the masks. So, Brian, we were seeing you do an application there already. What else would you like to say about it?
So, what's been interesting for us is that process of experimentation. And that's what it's really been about. It's about empowering our people to actually use this technology in their teams, understand what works, what doesn't work, when to use this technology and how to use it. And then also think about from their clients. So when we work obviously across industries, what are the potential applications and use cases in those industries? And what we're seeing over the last 6 months in particular is this huge spike in interest in all things metaverse, as large organizations are beginning to think about what does our strategy need to be for metaverse. And as Melanie was saying there, what problems would it solve and how might we use this technology? So the partnership with Microsoft and Altspace has been great to experiment and to really use this to enhance how we work and collaborate. In particular, given that many of us are working remote now and we're not all together in the office. So how can we have that sense of connection together? And there is a different sense. I mean, as humans, we think and experience the world in 3D. So there's a different experience here when you're using VR, for example, in this case, versus a sort of 2D screen for Teams calls today.
Okay, thanks very much. And obviously, you know, Metaverse is very much the word of the moment. We're seeing it all around the show. And Brian, I'll probably stay with you a little bit and say, you know, I know you've done some market research with some of your customers. What have they been telling you? What are they looking for?
Yeah, so it's interesting. Coming into MWC, we actually did a survey across a global pool of telcos to find out what were they really thinking about Metaverse and how are they prioritizing it or investing in it and building it into their strategy. And what we found was that 70% of telcos believe that this is the next major significant opportunity for their business. So I think that's very different now than if we had to run this survey 12 months ago. In terms of the key use cases, number one was around actually customer experience. So how to really enhance the customer experience using this technology. Again, it doesn't mean everything needs to be in VR. It could be AR, it could be 3D environments on virtual screens. Today already, there are many use cases where telcos are using this technology to support customers with set up CPE inside the home. So it could be a router, actually using AR to support the customer install that themselves, prevents truck rolls and cost for the telco, but also enhances the customer experience because you're empowering the customer to do these things themselves. So the customer experience was number one. And number two was new products and services. So actually, what new avenues does this open? What new, beyond connectivity, which, at a minimum, this type of technology, and I think Luis brought it really well to life in terms of the B2C use cases, is going to drive considerable increase in network capacity demands. So connectivity will be one element. But beyond that, what are the products and services? We find that telcos in particular are some of the most trusted brands out there from consumers. So when we think about Metaverse and Web3 and digital identity and security, are there opportunities there? And what might they look like? So I think that's an area that we're going to see a lot of development and focus on in the next 12 months.
Thanks, Brian. And Louise, you're actually deploying this. You're working with operators around the world. Well, operators. And you're doing this in Japan, and obviously Japan is very innovative and, one of the places that normally gets this first. But what are you seeing from the perspective of, other telcos or maybe other technology partners about whether they're really delving into this at the moment?
Sorry, hello. Yeah, everyone really has interest in this and really want to get into this, but I would say that it's all about collaboration, because as I mentioned earlier during my keynote, the infrastructure is not there. So it's not like just the cloud providers can do it, the operators can do it. It's a cooperation between all forces, and this is what I show with the power of the AWS and then KDDI. We were able to deploy this to not a super scale, but to a decent amount of users and be a production-ready application. So I see interest from other operators as well, but it is more about like, okay, innovation, it's always hard. So it's really taking that leap of faith and and between operators, cloud services, and startups like us go to the industry and say, okay, this is what's possible. So does this solve your problem? Yes, no, and then iterate. Because otherwise, if not, we're just waiting for the magic application to appear, and it's not going to happen that way.
Thanks, Luis. And Tad, Microsoft, big player in the telco space. But how do you see 5G supporting the realization of the metaverse?
Let's see. So as I was watching the presentation of Luis and this project that we've done together between Microsoft and Accenture, I was reflecting on what my life has been like over the last couple of years under COVID, and how there are people that I've been working with for well over a year that I am just meeting for the first time physically at this show. It's incredible. And we've been, as Microsoft employees, like many of you, we've been working over Microsoft Teams since COVID lockdown a couple of years ago. So in a way, we've already, we've kind of been working in the metaverse, just a 2D version of the metaverse. And the richness of the experience of just being around other people, and it's just it's easy to forget how much power there is there, and that experience of being human and interacting with one another. If we can use technology and enable that without the overhead and the cost and the mask wearing and all that stuff, I think 5G can play an essential role. The team that I'm on, by the way, is the Azure for Operators team, and we have technology where we're investing in voice and packet core technology to help the telcos, our telco partners and customers, take advantage of the cloud, intelligent edge, and so on. But I think this innovation and this partnership with Accenture is going to enable some of that magical goodness of being together as humans, and bring that to platforms like Teams and all the great work that we're going to do moving forward, and to be able to bring that experience of being here locally and to get that benefit, and do it in a way with 5G that opens it up for people who can't travel, people who are in rural areas, who don't have access to 100 gig Ethernet for whatever reason, wherever they are. I think that this technology combined with 5G is going to be incredibly transformative.
Thanks, Tad. And that was very much at the high level, and 5G. From a more detailed side of things in the software, Luis, what can you see emerging? What do you think is going to happen or change?
Well, as with with videos and pictures, we had the JPEGs and MP4s. Now with 3D content, as I mentioned, it's becoming bigger and bigger. So there will be a lot of innovation on how to compress, deliver the content, do it in a hybrid mode, so that we can have these persistent experiences. Basically, yeah, like, for example, have a Microsoft Teams call, whether it's seamless in VR, in MR, or just from your smartphone. All that integration is probably what's going to be. The pandemic is driving it to happen faster than it was expected, actually.
Thanks, Luis. Well, we've been talking a lot about the technology, and we've seen some really cool products and how it can be used. But at the end of the day, it's all about the business model. It's about where the value is. So Brian, from your perspective, where is that? But there's this thing I keep hearing about. It's called metanomics. And could you maybe unpack that for us a little bit?
Sure, happy to. So I think, as I mentioned, C-suites are beginning to question what's our strategy, how do we move into this space, how do we take our first steps? And a big question there, obviously, is how do we make money from this, or what's that going to look like? I don't think anyone has all the answers in that area yet, but I think what we're seeing is identification of what might be the value pools here. How can we use this technology to maybe engage our customers in new ways? I think a great example, if any of you have been to SK Telecom's stand, they obviously, South Korean telco, they've built a metaverse platform called Ifland, and they're using that now to really change their customers into members of a community. So they have events, they have rooms, they have concerts, they have activities, you can hang out there with your friends. So they're reimagining what it means to be a telco provider through IFLand. Beyond that, in terms of metanomics, I think you look at areas like NFTs. So last year, NFTs were a $25 billion market, essentially almost starting from zero the year before. So in 1 year, it's astonishing the growth there. And we're seeing a lot of brands, again, I think McDonald's recently listing patents for virtual restaurants. Gucci famously sold a $4,000 handbag as an NFT, which was more expensive than the actual handbag. So for sure, I would say we're at the point of experimentation, but there's a lot of experimentation around how do you show up as a brand, and what's your objective, what's the strategy around entering the metaverse. So I think for SK, it was about building community and connecting their customers together in new ways. I think that's an essential question. And then from there, where are those sort of value pools?
Yeah, and I can certainly tell you that when I found out a Gucci handbag was sold for $4,000 in Roblox, which my children play every single day, I went in there and made sure the parental control was in place. Louise, where do you see the value coming from?
Well, in the case of metanomics, from our company point of view, the metaverse is not just a virtual world that you can go in VR or a 3D space. It's also mixed reality, or as stats say. I mean, with the pandemic, we're already kind of working in the metaverse virtually and all that. So I see a transition between the Web 2.0 type of business models and the Web 3.0. Enabled by these new technologies, because, for example, right now we have clients in which we provide the streaming for training, and basically, yeah, I mean, they don't directly monetize from the training, but yeah, they do have a lot of savings in operations and overhead due to the training. So actually, it's actually creating value in a different way, and somehow. Once we have this ever-persistent mixed reality world between the two spectrums, virtual reality and the real world, of course, new economies will be in place, like the NFTs and so on, and new ways of creating value will be created in that sense, even if I'm repetitive. So for now, I think the way to monetize for the operators the metaverse is with the current transition between Web 2 and Web 3. But at the same time, they should be preparing for this new economy that is coming, and it's coming very fast, actually.
Thanks very much. And Tad, Microsoft, big enterprise player. How do you think Microsoft will look for the value in this type of opportunity?
Thanks. We're going to be building on the assets that we already have, and the great products that we have for gaming and Xbox, and of course our productivity apps, and the work that we've done on the Microsoft Azure platform. The cloud plays a critical role here. I'm sure Luis can attest the amount of data that's required for the surfaces. And all of the content that's being rendered, those are massive data sets and will become even bigger, and they need to be geo-distributed around the globe. And then you have to have the intelligent edge processing and this, I love that CDN technology and the codec and so on. All of this is going to be enabled via cloud and edge technologies, so that's the platform part. And then we have the applications for consumers, as well as productivity apps for workers. And then 5G is how the whole experience gets projected out. So everything that's happening here is very much aligned with the investments that we continue to make in all of those areas.
Thanks. And I'll come back to you, Brian. I get a bit confused about what actually the metaverse is, right? So you've got Roblox. People say that's a metaverse. You've got Fortnite. That's a metaverse. You've got even the Xbox stuff, metaverse. Is it gaming? But then you hear about things like decentralized lands, the sandbox, which are all built on blockchain. What is the metaverse? That's a question, isn't it?
That is quite a question. I think we could do a lot longer panel on just that question. And it is the type of thing you ask 10 different people, you'll get 10 different answers. In Accenture, the way we think about it really is an evolution of the internet. So with Web 1 was the internet of information, and that's when Wikipedia, sites like that emerged, and it was one way, you went to the internet for specific information. With Web 2 was the social internet, and was the internet of people when we started connecting with each other on social networks like Facebook and like Twitter. And now with Web 3 and with the Metaverse, where we see it is that the internet of place. There's this sense of place that exists. But importantly, it's not just VR, because a lot of people think, well, if the metaverse involves having to strap a computer to my head, I'm not interested in it. It's AR, as Luce was saying, it's the 3D world. So it's the bridge between the physical and the digital, and the seamless blending of those two aspects of all of our lives and to our identity. That's what the metaverse is. And we're early in the cycle. So I think, watching how this evolves over the next 12 months, but it's very real. And when we look for the signals out there, we're seeing real, genuine momentum. A colleague of mine, Andy Walker, says that, for him, it became real when he saw the Foo Fighters do a concert in the metaverse. That was the signal for him. For other people, it's going to be looking at what some of the investment banks are doing. It's going to be the fact that likely in the next 12 or 24 months, many of us will be using the new devices to do our jobs and how we work. So that's how we really see the evolution of it. So it's very broad, I would say.
Cool. And Louise, I saw you laughing when I asked Brian that question. What's your view?
Well, it's just that right now, everybody, when they think about the Metaverse, they think about Roblox or the Decentraland and all this. But this, as Brian said, it's just really this spectrum between the real and the virtual, and in between, and moving seamlessly with digital experiences, which can be, in the form of a full-blown immersive experience, but it is also just the payments, the NFTs, and so on. It is a new internet in that sense. So that's, I guess, the message that probably myself also would like to get across this panel is that the metaverse is not just gaming. It's across all the spectrum, and it will apply to all business verticals, and will create new ones.
Thanks very much. And Brian, you brought up that Web 1, Web 2, Web 3 journey. I think, we learned a lot when you went into Web 2. That was a social network, effectively. What do you reckon the lessons are that we need to make sure we take from the Web 2 experience we've got now into the Web 3 world?
It's a great question, and I think there's probably a lot. And now is very timely to begin to consider the implications of what's being built in Web 3, particularly when it comes to trust, safety, identity, because the potential for all of the challenges that we've had with Web 2 is that they will be amplified even further in Web 3. But we're at an inflection point and a point in time now where we can actually consider how we build this. What are the protocols? What are the guidelines? How can we embed safety in this environment? How can we embed trust? To Tad's point, around the digital divide, how can we ensure, if the future of learning is going to be more immersive, how can we ensure equality of access to the connectivity and to the experience? So I think it's really important as business leaders, we embed this at this very early stage, and we ask the what if type questions now, rather than just putting it out there and hoping for the best.
Okay. And Tad, do you have any thoughts you want to share with the group, with the audience?
Yeah. I really like that way of looking at it. As we're building this metaverse out, or platforms for the metaverse, thinking about security, privacy, those sorts of things up front, and doing it in a way that is truly with the end user, with our customers and partners and so on. And I have an idea of what the metaverse is, just based on this experience, actually, that if we can use technology to move that experience from working from home and Microsoft Teams and the like, you move it just a little bit on the spectrum toward this experience, I think that feels like a metaverse innovation to me.
And Louise, from your perspective, it might be technical, it might be something else. What are the lessons that you feel that we should take?
Well, I also agree in terms of the security, and also, I mean, people talk about Web3 and everything being decentralized. I mean, it's really ideologist, in my opinion. First, we need to kind of figure out some of the rules, because otherwise it will become the Wild West. And also in the news, there are a lot of bad news about the metaverse and things that are not the best thing that we want for this new internet. So it's a balance between building the blocks of technology, but also at the same time figuring out how it will play a role in the society. Because the internet, the 1.0 internet was a transformational change in the society, and Web 3.0 is also the same. So we need to be very responsible about it.
Okay, thanks, Louise. And maybe just one final thought from each of you. If we were here 5 years' time, what would Metaverse look like? And I guess I might just say, would we even be here? But Tad, I'll probably start with you, and then we'll move along the panel. What do you think it will look like in 5 years' time, the Metaverse?
It'll be higher fidelity.
I will be in Tokyo, but you will see me here. I will be in Tokyo, but you will see me here. So I won't have to travel.
So I wouldn't have got any time to spend with you then this week. It's a real shame. And Brian?
I'm very excited about the new devices that we'll see. So there's a bunch of new devices that we expect out in the next 12 to 24 months that will be entry points to the metaverse. I think getting price points that are affordable and compelling to consumers will be key. But for sure, I think the developments both on the hardware and on the software side will be significant in the next 5 years, as well as the new platforms that will emerge to become the giants of Web3. I think we'll have a little bit more clarity on that in 5 years' time.
Okay, well, I think that wraps up our panel. I just want to thank our panelists for such an insightful conversation. I think what we've heard, and I think the big takeaway from me from this session is that, the metaverse is already here. It's not hype. There's already business being done. You've heard about NFTs and handbags being sold for $4,000. You're seeing the solutions be pieced together like Louise, and we're probably going to be seeing the technical roadmap over the next 2 to 3 years of devices start to make this even more immersive. I think the one thing I would take away from the session is that this is now. So if you have an interest in getting into this business, I think you need to start doing it today, because you know that other people are, and the market will come along and move quite quickly. So yeah, if you have an interest, please start now. And I think some great people here to get you started. So please do reach out to them. So thank you very much, guys. If you'd like